We're all here just laboring with our little teaspoons, and you come and bring a shovel. And thanks to you, we're almost there. We're on the verge of tipping it, Bob, and you're our closing act.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Jane Pauley.
Our look ahead to the Academy Awards continues this morning with actor Edward Norton, who's earned his 4th career Oscar nod for his supporting role in the Bob Dylan movie, A Complete Unknown. Tracy Smith visited with him in Los Angeles.
The fires that ravaged Southern California last month turned too many of Malibu's most treasured places to ash. But some, like the legendary Shangri-La studios, still stand. Over the years, it's been used by some of the biggest names in the music business, like Eric Clapton and Adele, to name a few. But it's also known as the house that Bob Dylan built. Even the old bus out back, legend has it, was used by Dylan on tour.
And Bob Dylan camped out on the lawn?
I actually think it's in Clapton's biography that there was a period where Dylan had a tent in the Rose Garden here.
For actor Edward Norton, this is hallowed ground, and in a way, so's his latest movie role.
You tramped all the way from Minnesota. Why is that?
I wanted to catch a spark.
In A Complete Unknown, Norton is folk music legend Pete Seeger, playing opposite Timothy Chalamet as the young Bob Dylan.
I'm Pete, by the way.
Yes, sir. No question about it.
How about you?
I'm Bobby.
Something come after that?
Dylan.
Norton says playing a music legend like Seeger was both sublime and terrifying.
I think every actor in some part of him wants to be a rock star, you know? And I think that
and that's you too, yes.
And the fantasy of, there's a dream. I think every actor holds the dream in some sense. You know, I almost started crying at the idea of it because—
Did you really?
Well, I mean, I was nervous about it because I was nervous about the whole enterprise, because I thought the idea of a biopic about Dylan, if you just said it that way, I was like, ooh, like, I'm not sure.
This is a huge gamble.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not sure, because to me, it has a mythical kind of place in me, and I thought this could be really, really a bad idea.
But I feel like singing, so I'm gonna sing it for you. You know the words. This land is your land.
And here's just one of the challenges. Pete Seeger was an accomplished banjo player, so Norton had to become one as well. And the banjo's a tough one to learn.
We did an interview with Steve Martin, and he played the banjo for us. And watching him play the banjo, I mean, it's so complex, and it's so fast.
Yeah. I made the joke that I Googled, you know, is there an AI that can replace my hands with Steve Martin's? Like, you know, like, can I get, or you know, in the old days, that thing where you put your arms behind your back and Steve Martin puts his hands under my armpits and does the playing for me, which I'm not saying is not what happened, you know? It might have. It might have. Who knows?
The hour that the ship comes in.
In the finished film, his playing looks and sounds authentic, because it is. And that authenticity is something that Edward Norton has always worked for, starting with his very first movie role as a calculating killer in the 1996 thriller Primal Fear.
Well, I am innocent.
Norton, who was raised in Maryland, cultivated an Appalachian accent so real that people thought he was actually from Kentucky.
I don't know who's capable of such a thing, Mr. Vale.
And he wound up with his first Oscar nomination.
What do you want me to do? You just want me to hit you?
Come on, do me this one favor.
Why?
Why? I don't know why. I don't know.
3 years later, he was fighting it out with Brad Pitt in a film that's now become embedded in our culture.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
I mean, it's huge now. It has a huge fan following. It's acclaimed. But when Fight Club came out, it was not successful financially.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it was polarizing. I would say there were those who absolutely, like, it hit them right in the center of their sense of their own selves, and then there were people who just absolutely thought it was, garbage, panned it.
In fact, it was roundly booed at the Venice Film Festival, but that didn't bother Norton or his co-star Pitt.
And as the credits rolled, Brad looked at me in the dark, crying, and he said, "That's the best film we'll ever be in." And I said, "Me too," and I think so too. And we were hugging each other and crying because we were so happy with like booze rising around us. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes you just gotta let your own freak flag fly and see, and people will figure it out or not.
Norton's let his own freak flag fly in more than 40 films.
What's the problem?
Like a mild-mannered police captain in the Grand Budapest Hotel.
I know exactly who you are. It's uncanny. You're little Albert.
I'm terribly embarrassed. Release them.
He was an ego-driven Broadway actor in Birdman.
But long after you're gone, I'm going to be on that stage, earning my living, bearing my soul, wrestling with complex human emotions. Right.
And he nailed the eccentric billionaire part in Glass Onion.
Hey, try to solve the murder mystery, if you can. I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's pretty next level.
Watching him on screen, it's hard to believe Edward Norton was once told he didn't have what it takes to make it as an actor.
Was there a casting director who told you find another profession?
There was. I had one of those, like, someone sits you down and says, you should do something else.
Like, literally, you should do something else.
Yeah, very, very, very well-known casting director in New York. One of the ones you hoped to get in front of. But look, if you don't run into moments where people lay some fundamental uncertainty around, the path you've chosen, and you can't push through it, then you probably don't belong.
Of course, there's little doubt he belongs in all of this. Edward Norton has an Oscar nomination for every decade of his career.
So I want you to give a warm welcome to Bob Dylan.
And he's in the running now for his work in A Complete Unknown.
I was young when I left home.
But he says that for him, it's not about the awards or the money, but the chance to channel greatness.
If channeling their frequency gets people refocused on what it looked like when people were using the talents they had to further ideas and values that were bigger than themselves, then that is what makes it worth doing. Can we get people to re-engage with and be moved by and inspired by the idea of artists as agents of change?
Of change.
Yeah.
And the seas will split.
And whether Edward Norton is a pure artist or just a really great actor, it's easy to believe him.
And the wind will pound, and the money